Picture this. Every military planner's nightmare scenario landing troops on American soil. Not in a decade, not in a century. Try never. Because here's what most people don't realize. Invading the United States isn't just difficult or improbable. It's a mathematical impossibility wrapped in geography, technology, and sheer firepower that would make even the boldest generals abandon the idea before the first ship left port. Let's start with something that sounds almost absurd. To successfully invade any country, military doctrine requires roughly a 3-to-1 advantage over defenders. The United States maintains about 2 million active and reserve personnel. That means an attacking force would need to land at least 6 million troops on American shores just to have a fighting chance. 6 million. For context, the largest amphibious assault in human history, D-Day, involved around 156,000 troops crossing the narrow English Channel, a distance you could practically swim. That operation stretched Allied logistics to the absolute breaking point, and it covered less than 100 miles of water. Now imagine transporting 40 times that number across either the Atlantic or Pacific Ocean bodies of water spanning thousands upon thousands of miles. The Pacific alone covers nearly a third of Earth's entire surface. Any invasion fleet would be visible to American satellites and radar systems for weeks before ever reaching the coastline, completely eliminating the element of surprise. But wait, it gets worse for potential invaders. Modern warfare doesn't just require moving soldiers, it requires sustaining them. A single armored division in combat can burn through hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel every single day. Ammunition, food, medical supplies, spare parts, communications, equipment. All of this has to cross those same oceans continuously. There isn't a nation on Earth, not even China or Russia, that possesses the naval capacity to transport and sustain 6 million troops across an ocean while under constant attack. Military analysts call this sea lift capability, and it's the invisible wall that stops invasions before they start. When you hear experts say an invasion is impossible, this is what they mean. The logistics collapse under their own mathematical weight long before the first boot touches sand. Speaking of oceans, let's talk about America's natural fortress. The United States benefits from what historians call the world's greatest moats. The Atlantic to the east, the Pacific to the west. These aren't just bodies of water, they're logistical kill zones. To the north sits Canada, a close ally with rugged terrain, dense forests, and weather conditions that have destroyed armies throughout history. Trying to move a modern military force through the Canadian Shield would be like trying to drive tanks through a frozen, rock-filled maze. To the south lies Mexico, another ally, separated from prime American targets by scorching deserts and mountain ranges. The idea of staging a massive invasion through either border is pure fantasy. Even if somehow an enemy secured cooperation from Canada or Mexico itself, wildly implausible given existing alliances, they'd still face the Rocky Mountains, the Appalachian Range, the Sonoran Desert, and countless other natural barriers that would shred supply lines and trap advancing forces. Now, add in America's global military footprint. Before any enemy could even think about approaching the continental United States, they'd first have to contend with roughly 750 military installations spread across at least 80 countries. That's not a typo. 750 bases, from Japan to Germany, from South Korea to Italy. The U.S. maintains approximately 128 confirmed bases in 49 foreign countries as of 2025, with over 243,000 military and civilian personnel stationed overseas. These installations cost upwards of $70 billion annually to maintain, but they serve a critical strategic purpose. They project American military power thousands of miles away from the homeland. Any hostile fleet sailing toward California or New York would have to pass through layers of American air and naval assets positioned across the globe. It's like trying to rob a house when the owner has security cameras on every street in the neighborhood and armed guards stationed at every intersection for miles around. Then there's the U.S. Navy itself, the most powerful maritime force in human history. America operates multiple carrier strike groups that patrol the world's oceans like mobile, floating fortresses. Each carrier can project air power across hundreds of miles, and each strike group includes guided missile cruisers, destroyers, submarines, and supply ships. These aren't just big boats, they're entire military bases that can appear anywhere on Earth within days. During the Gulf War buildup in 1990, carrier air power was initially the only American military presence deterring further Iraqi aggression while ground forces deployed. That flexibility, the ability to move overwhelming force without requiring Allied permission or land bases, is a massive strategic advantage. Enemy invasion fleets wouldn't just face the U.S. Navy at America's doorstep. They'd be hunted across thousands of miles of open ocean by submarines, aircraft, and surface vessels equipped with weapons that can strike targets over the horizon. But let's say purely hypothetically that some coalition of nations somehow managed the impossible. They coordinated perfectly, avoided satellite detection, neutralized U.S. forward bases, defeated the Navy, and actually landed troops on American soil. Congratulations! You've now triggered America's nuclear deterrent. The United States operates what's known as a nuclear triad. Land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles in hardened silos scattered across the Great Plains, strategic bombers that can be launched within minutes, and Ohio-class submarines prowling the world's oceans. Each of those 14 submarines carries Trident II ballistic missiles capable of striking targets 7,500 miles away. These subs are nearly impossible to locate simultaneously, and the firepower of just one could obliterate an entire country. This isn't meant as a threat or bravado, it's simple strategic reality. Any invasion representing an existential threat to American sovereignty would almost certainly trigger nuclear retaliation, and no rational adversary would cross that threshold. Now here's where it gets truly nightmarish for invaders. Even if they somehow avoided nuclear escalation and secured territory, they'd immediately face something unprecedented in modern warfare: an armed civilian population. Americans own an estimated 393 million to 500 million firearms, depending on which survey you trust. That's more guns than people. Recent data indicates that roughly 40% of American households contain at least one firearm, with about 32% of adults personally owning guns. Montana leads the nation with approximately 66% of residents reporting firearm ownership. Compare this to any other nation. Americans hold roughly 46% of all civilian-owned firearms on the planet. We're not talking about antique hunting rifles gathering dust in closets. Millions of these are modern semi-automatic rifles, shotguns, and handguns in the hands of people who know how to use them. Add to this the 15 million military veterans living in the United States, men and women with combat training, tactical knowledge, and experience fighting in some of the most hostile environments on Earth. An occupying force wouldn't just be fighting the remaining U.S. military. They'd be facing guerrilla warfare on a continental scale. Every suburb could become a combat zone. Every city block a potential ambush. Every forest and mountain range a hideout for resistance fighters. Historically, even the most powerful militaries have struggled against insurgencies in countries a fraction of America's size. Iraq is roughly the size of California, and American forces, despite overwhelming technological superiority, faced years of determined resistance. Now, imagine trying to occupy and control a nation spanning from the Atlantic to the Pacific, from the Canadian border to the Gulf of Mexico, with a population more than 10 times larger and far better armed. The American heartland poses its own strategic nightmare. The Midwest isn't just farmland, it's the industrial engine that powered Allied victory in World War II, and it remains America's agricultural and manufacturing core. Even if coastal cities somehow fell, the interior could sustain resistance indefinitely. The United States produces more food than almost any nation, controls vast energy resources, including the world's largest oil and natural gas reserves through modern extraction technology, and maintains manufacturing capabilities that can be rapidly converted to military production. Trying to hold this territory while under constant attack from a hostile armed population would require an occupation force, numbering in the tens of millions, a force no coalition of nations could possibly field, supply, or sustain. Military experts who've wargamed these scenarios arrive at the same conclusion repeatedly. Even if every nation on Earth somehow united against the United States itself, an impossible political scenario, they still couldn't conquer American territory. One defense analyst noted that the combined military capability of the rest of the world would be insufficient to even establish a foothold on the continental United States. This isn't American exceptionalism or patriotic mythology. It's cold, strategic analysis based on geography, logistics, and capability. The numbers simply don't work. The distances are too vast. The defenses are too layered. The response would be too overwhelming. This reality has profound implications for global security. The impossibility of invading America doesn't just protect the United States, it shapes international relations in fundamental ways. When nations know that military conquest of the U.S. isn't an option, diplomacy, economic relationships, and international alliances become the primary channels for resolving disputes. This geographic and military security allows America to project power globally, maintain alliance networks like NATO, and engage in international affairs without the existential fear that drives some nations toward aggressive postures. It's why U.S. foreign policy can focus on interests abroad, rather than immediate survival at home, unlike nations facing hostile neighbors across land borders. Some might ask, has America ever been invaded? Technically, yes, but not in any modern sense. The British burned Washington during the War of 1812, though that was more a raid than an occupation, and the United States was a much different country then. Japan briefly occupied a few remote Aleutian islands during World War II, islands with almost no population, thousands of miles from the continental United States, and quickly retaken. There has never been a large-scale foreign military occupation of the American mainland, and given technological advancements, the geographic realities, and modern military capabilities, there never will be. If anything, the gap between what would be required to invade America and what any nation can actually project has grown wider, not narrower, despite advances in military technology. Could cyber warfare or space-based attacks bypass these defenses? Potentially. These represent the only realistic threats because they don't require moving millions of troops across oceans. Attacking American satellites or computer networks could theoretically negate some technological advantages and cause significant disruption to military communications, GPS, and infrastructure. However, and this is crucial, cyber and space attacks don't conquer territory. They can't occupy cities, control populations, or seize resources. At most, they create chaos and weaken capabilities. But they can't achieve the fundamental goal of invasion: political control of the nation. The United States would still exist, still possess its nuclear deterrent, still maintain its military, and could eventually recover and respond. Conquest requires boots on the ground, and for all the reasons we've discussed, those boots will never march on American soil in any realistic future scenario. So when you see movies depicting foreign invasions of America, remember, they're entertaining fiction, nothing more. The reality is that through centuries of expansion, careful statecraft, and fortunate geography, the United States built itself into a continental fortress protected by the largest moats in the world. It maintains the most powerful military in human history, backed by alliance networks spanning the globe and a nuclear arsenal that guarantees devastating retaliation against existential threats. Behind all of this stands a population better armed than most national militaries, ready to defend their homeland with a ferocity that no occupier could ever suppress. Whether you view this as reassuring or troubling depends on your perspective, but the strategic reality remains unchanged. Invading America isn't just difficult or unlikely. In the modern era of warfare, it's simply impossible.